Indo-Pacific Command is reverting to a Cold War-era title. The single most important military headquarters in the Pacific got its old name back, and the decision quietly closes the book on a label that lasted only 8 years. The Department of War announced Tuesday that U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, the four-star headquarters responsible for American military operations across roughly half the planet, will officially revert to its original name, U.S. Pacific Command, restoring a designation the command carried for more than 7 decades before it was changed in 2018. To understand why this matters, it helps to know what U.S. Pacific Command actually is. Headquartered at Camp H.M. Smith in Hawaii, it stands as the oldest and largest of the United States' 6 geographic combatant commands, the unified military headquarters that each oversee American forces across a defined region of the globe. President Harry S. Truman established the command on January 1, 1947, giving it oversight of an area of responsibility that the Department of War describes as stretching from the waters off the west coast of the United States to the western border of India, a swath of ocean and territory that includes China, North Korea, the Korean Peninsula, and the entire South China Sea. For most of its existence, the command operated under a single name, Pacific Command, or PACOM for short, the title under which it coordinated American forces through the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and decades of humanitarian relief missions across Asia. That changed in May 2018, when then Defense Secretary James Mattis announced during a change of command ceremony at Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam that the Pentagon was adding Indo to the name, creating U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. In recognition of the increasing connectivity between the Indian and Pacific Oceans, today we rename the U.S. Pacific Command to U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Mattis said at the time. The 2018 rebrand was widely understood as a diplomatic signal rather than a structural change, intended to acknowledge growing U.S. defense ties with India and to formally recognize that American strategic planners had started talking about the Indo-Pacific as one connected theater rather than treating South Asia and East Asia as separate concerns. Analysts at the time noted the move carried no immediate shift in the command's boundaries, its troops, or its assets, and officials were careful to describe it as largely symbolic even as it signaled Washington's deepening focus on countering China's influence across the wider region. Now the Department of War, the name the Pentagon adopted for itself under a Trump administration executive order signed in September 2025, is reversing that 2018 decision. The order President Trump signed allows the Defense Department and its officials to use Department of War, Secretary of War, and related titles in official communications, ceremonial settings, and non-statutory documents, even though the Department of Defense remains the agency's legally binding name under federal law until Congress passes legislation to change it. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has been a vocal supporter of the rebrand, arguing that the country has not won a major war since it dropped the Department of War name after World War II, and the decision to restore PACOM's original title fits squarely within that same instinct to reach back toward Cold War and World War II-era military branding. According to the Department of War's announcement, the reasoning behind reverting the Pacific Command's name centers on heritage rather than any new strategic posture. Restoring the legacy PACOM designation honors the command's deep historical roots, fostering a sense of pride and collective spirit among all who serve in the Pacific, the department said in its statement. The announcement made a point of stressing that nothing about the command's actual mission or footprint is changing alongside the name. According to the Department of War, U.S. Pacific Command's area of responsibility remains exactly the same vast stretch of territory it covered as Indo-Pacific Command, and the command's fundamental mission and its commitment to maintaining a free and open theater alongside regional allies and partners are unchanged. Admiral Samuel Papero, who has led the command since May 2024, continues in that role under the restored name, and the roughly 375,000 civilian and military personnel assigned to the command's vast area of operations will continue carrying out the same missions, working with the same allies, and facing the same strategic competitors they did the day before the announcement.